I'm Kiwan. Welcome to Bus Driver Life. And today I'm going to answer a question that people ask me all the time. How much are bus drivers paid? You want the answer? Here it goes.
$100 billion.
Okay, for real this time. There's really no one answer or one correct answer to that question at all, because it really depends on where you work, where you drive. It also depends on if the transit system you work for is actually ran by the city or the county that you live in, or if the city contracts another company out to run the system. Typically, when they contract a company out to run the system, the bus drivers and the staff, they don't really benefit very much from that. The pay tends to be a little bit lower and the benefits are typically not as good, so I don't know. It's just how it works out. Also notice that larger cities tend to pay more than the small cities and the small towns that have transit systems. So that's something to take into consideration. Like, let's say you live in a smaller city and you're maybe an hour or two away from a larger city. You may want to look into the transit system in the larger city and see what their benefits and salary is. It may be more to your liking. It just depends on if you're willing to commute or even relocate. Another thing to keep in mind is part-time versus full-time. Some bus companies will start drivers off part-time, so you're only getting like what, 20, 25 minutes? Minutes? What? 20 to 25. So if you're driving part-time, it's normally gonna be like 20, 25 hours a week. So even if the salary looks good on paper, the hours are just not gonna add up. But part-time is normally just temporary and eventually you'll be moved up to full-time. And some transit companies, they start you off right away at full-time. So that's something else to take into consideration, to think about when you're doing your research about which transit system to drive for. So from my research and just knowing people that, you know, drive buses in different parts of the United States, some companies can pay as low as like $13 to $15 an hour, and some can pay as much as like $25 to $30 an hour, $35 an hour, depending on like where you're at. So it varies. Another thing to consider is the cost of living in the area that you will potentially be a bus driver in. Let's look at cities like New York and San Francisco. If you're making $30 an hour in San Francisco, it looks good on paper, but the cost of living is so high that that $30 an hour won't go as far as it would in another city that would be more affordable to live in. So you got to think about that as well. Sometimes the salary looks good on paper, but when it's time to pay those bills or go on that vacation or buy that car, you're like, this is not enough. Thought it was going to be better than this. So remember, there's always an exception to the rule. Every transit system and bus company is different. They all have different pay rates, salaries, benefits. It just all depends. You have to do the research. But like I said, some places pay great and have excellent benefits. Some places, not so much. So just all depends. And a little bit of advice. If you are in a position where your only option to be a bus driver is a system that maybe doesn't pay as well right now, you can still consider it because you can get experience. And then once you have an opportunity to go to a transit system that pays more, you can go. And you'll already have an idea of what the job is going to be like. So think about that. I know stuff sometimes. Oh, one more thing. Overtime. That can really help boost your paycheck, because overtime be awesome. Different transit systems have different policies on overtime. Some places it's voluntary. I've heard some transit systems it's mandatory. So it just really depends. But overtime can be cool, you know, coming in and working your days off, getting time and a half, and it can help your check. Of course, you're going to be taxed even more, but it's still more than you'll normally get. So overtime can be nice depending on where you work at. So this is Kiwan, Bus Driver Life. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something, or hopefully I was able to give you some sort of insight. And make sure you subscribe and like, leave a comment. Let's try and keep it positive. Let's try and keep it classy, okay?